Welcome to the Vedanta Society of Providence Sunday service. We'll start with the Sunday opening prayer. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, thou abidest in all. Thou art all. Thou assumest all forms. Thou art the origin and goal of all. Thou art the self of all. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss. Salutations unto thee. May the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. And now I will introduce our guest speaker for today. Sudhir Railkar grew up in Mumbai, India, and was educated in both India and the U.S. His PhD research was funded by NASA and was focused on thermal protection tiles for the space shuttle. After completing his PhD, he worked as a research professor at the Stevens Institute of Technology, where he taught and did collaborative research with private industries and the U.S. Navy and U.S. Army in designing extrusion machinery. Later, he worked with the largest building materials company, where his research work led to several new and innovative products. He has authored more than 100 research papers and holds 80 U.S. patents. Since 1997, he has been associated with the Vivekananda Vidyapit in Wayne, New Jersey, where he was exposed to the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Swami Vivekananda. In 2013, he traveled to Gujarat, India, to experience all the sites that Swami Vivekananda once visited. In 2015, he visited Belar Mat, Jairambati, and Karmapakur, and the Dakshineshwar Temple and surroundings, along with 91 students and teachers from Vivekananda Vidyapit. For many years, he has been closely interacting with several Swamis of the Ramakrishna order and has been attending their lectures and classes on scriptures and Vedanta. He has translated the Abhangas of Sant Tukaram Maharaj and Marathi saints' teachings on Advaita Vedanta. Today he will be presenting on Crossing the Bridge to Spirituality.
Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Saluting to Sri Ramakrishna, let me begin my talk on crossing the bridge to spirituality. So just a brief introduction. A bridge usually connects two things, like such as two cities or two places overcoming obstacles. And bridge usually allows people's car, trains to cross over obstacles in a relatively short time. In life, we cross several bridges, and these bridges we cross for a definite purpose. Sometimes for education, for job, maybe for marriage, maybe for travel. And why do we do that? Because we want to be happy. However, it seems that the happiness doesn't last for long. It is usually temporary. And so the question comes to mind is that, is there a bridge to a place which can provide eternal happiness? So let's explore that. So over time, I have visited many bridges. I have read about multiple bridges too. And so we'll look at the timeline of bridges going back all the way back from 4 BC all the way to 2023. In particular, we'll visit the year 1357, very important year. And then we'll visit some of the bridges in India, some in United States, one in Czechoslovakia, one in Soviet Union. And the question is there something we can learn from these bridges? Are these bridges pointing to something? So we start with the story of Ramayana, going back all the way to 4 BC. And the well-known story of Ramachandra, God Ramchandra, was that his wife Sita ji was kidnapped by Ravana and he took her to Sri Lanka. And then he wanted to rescue her, so he, along with his brother Lakshmana, wanted to come and rescue Sita ji. So they came to the southern tip of India and they saw the sea in front of them. And so his great devotee Hanuman gathered an army of monkeys and they built this bridge across the sea. And this was the story coming from 4 BC. And then fast forward to many years later, thousands of years later, NASA's Space Shuttle Endeavour, STS-59, took this picture on the right-hand side, where you can see that between India and Sri Lanka, there seems to be some connection. So upon further investigation, they found that there are these limestones which are floating under there, and they were dated to be 7 or 4 BC. So that kind of verifies the story. And then the Persian geographer in around 850, his name was Ibn Khordadbeh, and he wrote a book called Kitab al-Mashalik wa Mamalik. And in that book, he refers to this structure called Set Bandai. Set Bandai means bridge at the sea. So this kind of verifies to an extent the story of Ramayana. So why did Rama cross the bridge? Rama crossed the bridge because he wanted to rescue his wife. So fast forward from that and come to 1964 when I was a kid. I went to Rishikesh and walked across this bridge called Lakshman Jula. Jula means bridge. And Lakshmana was Rama's brother. When he was traveling with Rama, he crossed this river using only 2 jute ropes. So this was a make-believe bridge. And then later in the 1927, a bridge was built where Lakshmana had crossed the Ganges River. So people cross bridges for different types of reasons. Back in United States around the same time in 1965, Senator John Lewis and him and his peaceful marchers were walking peacefully across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and they were met with violence. And then, because of that, Martin Luther King Jr. on March 9th took those marchers back again and crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And why did he do that? Why did he cross this bridge? He wanted to make a statement for the civil rights of people. And if you remember, very recently when John Lewis passed away, his body was taken across the bridge for one last time, and you might have seen that on the news. And then back in India in 1976, when I was an engineering student, I went to Victoria Jubilee Technical Institute, a school built by the Britisher that was established in 1887. And that school was not too far from my house, but it was on the other side of town. And I used to always cross this bridge. The picture on the right-hand side is that of the Tilak Bridge. And the name Tilak comes from a freedom fighter of India. His name was Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak. And we'll come to that at a later time. But my main purpose of crossing this bridge was to go to school and come home every time the school was over. And very recently, in 2021, I walked across the Brooklyn Bridge. And you might ask why. And this is a hip thing to do when you are in New York. Most youngsters would love to go on Brooklyn Bridge and keep walking across there, because from there you get a beautiful view of Manhattan. And this Brooklyn Bridge connects Brooklyn and Manhattan. And as you walk towards the west, you get a great view of Manhattan. So just for fun, I did that. The bridge opened in 1883. I crossed this bridge 50,000 days later. Quite a long time it took me to get there. But when you think about the West, only one person comes to mind, and that's Swami Vivekananda. So in early 1900s, as back then the conditions in India were not such that Swami Vivekananda thought that his message would be lost in India. So he looked towards the West and found a place like America. And he built this bridge from east to west. And he brought the knowledge of the East to the West. And then he asked his best disciple, Sister Nivedita, to go from the West to East to help the women of India. Recently in 2023, I went to Calcutta and I traveled on the Swami Vivekananda Setu. Setu means bridge. And the Sister Nivedita Setu, that's her bridge. The two bridges down there named after them. And when I cross that, certainly it reflects to what the work they have done. So bridge can really point to something different, as you will find out as I go further in this lecture. So in life, we cross several bridges, as I said before, and talked about many bridges, and we cross it for certain purpose. However, all bridges aren't simple. Some bridges can take you nowhere, and some are difficult to cross, and sometimes you end up repeating those bridges. And some can even take you out of this world. So the question is, what about the bridge to spirituality? So let's explore that. So if you travel to San Gabriel Mountains in California, there is this bridge. And this bridge goes nowhere. On both sides of the bridge, there is no road. This bridge was built in the mountains for what nobody knows. So one question is, in life, you should not cross such a bridge which takes you nowhere, a bridge which will make you wander aimlessly. You don't want to do that in your life. You need to have a purpose to cross a bridge. So definitely avoid such bridges. So that brings me to the 7 bridges of Königsberg. And this is a very these were world famous 7 bridges of Königsberg. On the left-hand side, the map is shown of the original Königsberg. On a Pregel River in Soviet Union, there were 7 bridges. And the question was asked, can I travel on all these 7 bridges once without repeating and end up at the same spot? And the answer was given by this gentleman on the right-hand side, whose stamp is being shown there. His name was Leonhard Euler. And Euler said that is not possible. Down below, when you see the picture, this is today's Königsberg, and only 2 of the 7 bridges remain. So Euler was born in 1707, and 250 years after his birth anniversary, Soviet Union released this stamp. So who was he? So Leonhard Euler was born in 1707 in Basel, Switzerland. And he became a Swiss mathematician, a physicist, and an engineer. He developed complex numbers and calculus, very famous guy. He was the first one ever to write function f of x of a variable x. He was the first one to write I for square root of -1 and sigma, capital sigma, for summation I equal to 1 to n. In 1736, when he was asked the question of these 7 bridges, he came up with a new branch of mathematics called the graph theory. And you might ask, why is this relevant to our talk of spirituality? So let's look at the 7 bridges of Königsberg as of that time. And the idea was visit each bridge once and end up at the starting point. And Euler said that's not possible. And that's the first theorem of graph theory. So you can look at the diagram on the right-hand side. take a pen and try to go from point 1 to all 7 bridges, and there is no way you can get back to point number 1 without repeating a bridge. And so, in similarity, you can visit all the places in the world, and in your old age decide that I would do spirituality. That's not going to be possible. So I'm calling that as first theorem of spirituality. So just like the bridges, I feel that spirituality is something you need to start up on early. It's not something you can postpone it all the way to the end and then think in a short time I'll be able to get there. And one point I forgot to mention, that yesterday's Königsberg has been renamed as Kaliningrad in Soviet Union. And you might find that name to be familiar because recently there has been a lot of discussion in NATO and fight between Soviet Union and NATO about Kaliningrad. So the waters of Pregel River and Kaliningrad have been forever troubled. And whenever you hear the word troubled water, only one thing comes to mind is the song by Paul Simon, a great American singer, who released this album, Bridge Over Troubled Water, in 1970. Very famous song. And in that song, if you read the lyrics of the song, it says, oh, if you need a friend, I am sailing right behind like a bridge over troubled water. So you might wonder, who is this friend who is sailing right behind? Like usually people who are in trouble always looking for a friend, and such a friend does exist. For those who do not have a real friend, they can look up to Sri Ramakrishna. And the reason for that is, if you look at the Bellur Mutt website and study about Sri Ramakrishna's background, Bellur Mutt describes Sri Ramakrishna as the bridge between the ancient and the modern. And he says that Ramakrishna shows us how ancient ideals and experiences could be realized while following the modern way of life. That Sri Ramakrishna is not asking all of us to follow spirituality by giving up everything and going to the jungle and sit there. He is saying follow your normal modern life and still be able to experience the ideals of ancient wisdom. So with that, some people thinking of modern world are trying to build bridges from out of this world. I recently went to listen to this astronomer, Neil deGrasse Tyson, very famous astronomer. And he talked about these distant worlds. And he talked about potentially habitable exoplanets. So he's trying to build a bridge from this solar system to the next solar system. But you would have to travel light years to get there. And such a thing will be difficult for humans. However, if you read the New American Standard Bible, you will find that there is a discussion about heaven, earth, and hell, such as Prithvi, Swarga, and Patal. And Jesus declared himself as the bridge between heaven and earth in Psalm 1.51. So if you took the right bridge and follow the path of Jesus and follow his life, or follow Ramakrishna's life, you would be able to find a better life somewhere in the heaven. That's what Jesus has said. Similarly, if you took the wrong bridge, you may end up at the wrong spot. So that brings me to crossing the bridge to spirituality. And when you pose that question to somebody, how about spirituality? Very often you get this answer that I am good, I'm worldly, I like this world, but I'm very good, I'm not doing anything bad. Isn't being good sufficient even though I'm worldly? The second answer you get is, we'll cross the bridge to spirituality when we will get there. Or when I retire, I will have so much more time to do spirituality that I will be able to do it. But the question is, maybe we are already at a juncture that we need to make this decision that we need to cross the bridge to spirituality. So let's explore that. And before we go into that, First, I would like to spend some time on devoting who we really are. Because suppose we have a wrong idea of who we are, suppose we think we are the body, the type of effort we may put in may not be worth it. And so let's look at who we are. Am I just this body who is enjoying this world? I have some worldly knowledge, and I'm thinking of crossing some bridges. Maybe I have some dreams. I have a house, I have a car. And then I keep hearing this word karma. That's something I put it out there, maybe it comes back to me. So I don't know much about it. So let me first figure out who I am, and then I can decide on what type of effort I need to put on. So in the introduction, as you heard what Charlie mentioned, that I have been translating Santa Tukaram Maharaj's Abhangas from Marathi into English. He was a saint from 1598 to 1650, and he wrote about 4,583 Abhangas. Each Abhanga consists of multiple lines, and somebody got me started on this journey, and I'm continuing it. I've so far done about 2,300 Abhangas I have translated in the last 4 years. So Santa Tukaram Maharaj was a devotee of Vithoba, as you see on the left-hand side picture. And Lord Vithoba and his wife Rakumai are standing on a brick. And the reason they are standing on a brick is, the story goes, the picture on the right-hand side, there was a bhakta named Pundalik. And he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. That one day Lord Krishna showed up at his house unannounced. And he said to Lord Krishna that I cannot entertain you because I'm busy taking care of my ailing parents. And I don't have even a furniture to give you to ask you to sit. So here is a brick, can you stand on that? And ever since, God has been standing there. And these Abhangas were written by Santa Tukaram in Marathi. And the local priests who were jealous of him, they sank his writings in this river. So he did austerities for 13 years. And after that, the legend says that the Abhangas floated. So let's look at some of these Abhangas and its relevance to who we are. So we look at Abhanga 54. And in Abhanga 54, he talks about one line, first line, that offer everything to God, otherwise mind will always be in duality. Such as we are always in duality. I like vanilla ice cream, I don't like chocolate, I like this person, I don't like that person. So he says, don't be in duality. And he says these 5 elements will make a body for you. Which are these 5 elements? Space, air, fire, water, and earth. So according to this saint, our body is made out of 5 elements. So the question comes to mind is, so am I same as the universe? And so that brings me to 7 BC Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Shloka 1.4.10. In that shloka says, Aham Brahmasmi. What does that mean? I equal to the universe. And so is that really true? So 2,000 years later, an article was published in the paper recently in 2017. And it says, humans are really made up out of stardust. And then NASA published another article that you are nothing but made out of stardust. So based on these 2 articles, how did they come to this conclusion? They looked at things in the universe and they broke it down to the smallest possible particle. And they found that universe is made out of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. And they did the same thing with the human body. And they found that human body is made out of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And so the science declares 2,000 years later that you are equal to universe. So Aham Brahmasami certainly means a lot more than just physically proving that our body is same as universe. But we won't go into that. We'll go to Shloka 86 or Abhanga 86. And there are 3 operative words. The first word is Maitra. Maitra means friend. Second word is Dhana, means wealth. And third word is Sainya. So you are a king and you have created an army. For what? Because you have a body, you want to protect it. But the saint says, even if you have gathered many friends, even if you have gathered lot of wealth, and you have an army to protect yourself, none of this will be of use in the final hour. And then he uses a word called Savraishi in Marathi, which means 84. And that 84 word is very important. That 84 is 84 lakhs. 84 lakhs is 8.4 million and 8.4 million trips. So what the saint is saying is human birth is very precious. You would have to go through 8.4 million species and birth before you get a human birth. So remember, the most important message from this slide is human birth is very precious. Very recently, science has declared that there are 8.7 million species. So 2,000 years ago, the saint knew this pretty close. So how do we get entangled into this world? Or how do we get busy in this world? And the saint says that just like a monkey holding a sugar candy, we have our senses focused outward in the world, and so we get really busy. And then in line 4, he says, Na chale wow. That means there is no solution for a person who is involved in the world, who is entangled in the world. So when no solution works, what do? We look at the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna describes why no solution works for a human being who is entangled in the world. So if you read the gospel, and many of world's problems are personal problems, you can find solutions for that. So I recommend everybody to read gospel, at least a page of gospel every day. I do it. So when Sri Ramakrishna was in Belur Math, and the map on the right-hand side shows in the Google map Belur Math, he was going to Bagh Bazaar via the Dakshineshwar Kali temple. And when he was crossing the bridge at Bagh Bazaar, one thing he noticed, he saw that the bridge has so many chains. The bridge was held by chains. And so he told his fellow passengers in the cart that just the way the bridge has so many chains, we human beings have so many attachments in the world. And because of these attachments, a worldly person has great difficulty to cut these bondages. If you read the book by Dhammapada, Sayings of Buddha, Buddha also talks about that. And in verse 646, he says, know that your body is just like a foam, and awaken to the mirage nature of your body. It's not real. It's almost like a mirage. And then he says, cut out the Mara's flowers. What are Mara's flowers? Those are the temptations of the world which appear as flowers, which are nothing but the chains as described by Sri Ramakrishna. And so he says we need to go transcend that, to go beyond that. And then the Marathi saint says in Abhanga 99, nothing but what the Buddha says, that the first word he uses is mrugajal, means mirage. And he talks about fake feathers. That is, it seems that we keep arguing about something in the world which is not real. And then he talks about two more words. The first word is sanchit, and the second word is phal. Phal means fruit. For good actions, there are good fruits in the world. For bad actions, there are bad fruits. And then he talks about sanchit, and our actions generate a lot of karmas. And these karmas are divided into three types. Sanchit karma, prarabdha karma, and agami karma. And what are these? Sanchit karma means total accumulation of karmas from our past lives. Prarabdha karma is something we have done in the previous life, and we are experiencing the fruits of that in today's life or this life. And agami karma is something we are performing some actions today, and fruits will be received either immediately or after some time, maybe in next life. And most of this is again described in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Shloka 445, 446. So if you want to know details on that. So very quickly we'll look at this slide. law of karma. And this is a simplified version of the law of karma shown arithmetically. In reality, all our karmas may not add up and subtract according to as we experience them. But let's just go from left-hand side of the slide to the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, think that you have a box of karmas which has 6 arrows. And you start your life one with 6 red arrows, out of which 3 arrows are hitting the first tree and generating 3 fruits for you. So you are left with 6 minus 3 as 3 karmas. However, in that life, you are active and you have thrown 2 more arrows, as shown by the guy standing below the tree. So you have added 2 more karmas for yourself, so you are back to 5 karmas. And so on and so forth, and the cycle of karma continues. Remember, karmas are carried over from one life to another. This is why, otherwise, after the first life is over and the karmas are experienced, you would have been enlightened, or there would not have been a next life. But that does not happen. And what are these arrows? If you read the book, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and if you haven't read it, it's a very small book but very profound book. Khalil Gibran says that children come from you, but you don't possess them. But children are like the living arrows. So one of the things about the example of arrow would be children. That your children, you started them off, and they are going to produce some fruits for you now and in later life. So with that, we come to the most important slide of today's presentation. And this slide talks about 2 types of knowledge: worldly knowledge and spiritual knowledge. Give me 1 second here. So think about worldly knowledge, and think about this person in current life 1. And this person wants to be an engineer. So he starts off his knowledge with ABC as a child. He doesn't know anything. And then he learns mathematics, then he learns science, becomes an engineer, and has amassed a lot of knowledge. But as that life comes to an end, all of that knowledge goes to zero. And he is reborn. Now he wants to be an engineer again. And just a few years back, he was engineer in the previous life, but he doesn't remember a single thing about it. So he has to restart again with ABC, again with 1 plus 1, and again he learns science and engineering, and again he becomes engineer, but again that life ends, and again that knowledge is gone. So worldly knowledge does not get transferred from lifetime to lifetime. So let's look at spiritual knowledge. He starts off with spiritual knowledge in life 1 and goes from 0 spiritual knowledge to say level 1. That knowledge is carried over. If you read Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, sloka 41-42, Sri Krishna says that no spiritual knowledge is ever wasted. Whatever you have started and where you left off in the previous life, you will start off at that level in the next life. So similarly, in the second life, you will start with level 2 and you will keep going further up. So if I am an investor into something which I want to invest in, and if I look at this graph, I would think that if something which is going to go to 0, that stock is no good for me. That every lifetime I'm going to lose my entire effort and my worldly knowledge is going to go to 0. I rather invest in something which is going to be added on from lifetime to lifetime. And the Marathi saint says in Abhanga 112, the real knowledge is nothing but Advaita. And the total Brahmajnana, the understanding of Brahman and experiencing it, not talking about it. And he says in the line that without experience of Brahman, most of the talk is a wasteful gossip. And then in line 2, he says, have some control over senses. With that, what would happen? All desires will drop off, and mind will not be in duality in making decisions. This is very important. And when mind is not in duality, in making decisions, what happens? So that brings me to the story of Swami Sarvagatananda. And Swami Sarvagatananda was the head monk and head minister of Providence Center, where Swami Yogatmananda took over from him. And today I am been very blessed to have been standing at the same location and giving my ideas to you folks. But when Swami Sarvagatananda was a young boy, he met Swami Akhandananda in Bombay, not very from where I live in Bombay, in the Kar ashram. And Swami Akhandananda is a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. And Swami Sarvagatananda told Swami Akhandananda that he would like to go to one of the centers or somewhere where he can learn from some sage. And Swami Akhandananda told him that I know someone named Swami Kalyananandaji. He lives in Kankhal, India, in the northern part of India. So he said, you should go to him. And Swami Kalyananandaji is a direct disciple of Swami Vivekananda. So just imagine the connection of Swami Sarvagatananda coming both from Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. So as a young person, Swami Sarvagatananda arrived in Haridwar on February 7, 1935. And he went to one ashram there, and he asked the Rishi there that where is Ramakrishna Mission Kankhal? And the Rishi said, why don't you join me? And he said, no, my mind is made up. My mind is not in duality. I am determined to go join the Ramakrishna order. So the Rishi told him, and this is quoted on page 8 of a book, You Will Be Paramahansa by Swami Sarvagatananda. I am currently reading that book. And he said, cross that bridge and follow the road to Kankhal. So Swami Sarvagatananda crossed this bridge, which is the Chandighat bridge in Haridwar, as shown on the Google map underneath. And he crossed that bridge and he went to Kankhal. And then he worked with Swami Kalyananandaji for many years. And after many years of training there, then over time, then he came to the United States and took over the monkship or ownership of Providence, Rhode Island. So that brings me to the most important commodity on the face of the planet, time. And time is very important. Remember, we have a body, we are trying to protect it. We have a very precious human life, and we have a very short time. If you read the book again by Khalil Gibran, the prophet, in that he says that time should be looked upon like a river. You should sit on the bank of a river, bank of the river called time, and watch at it. Not dwell yourself in the past, not worry about the future, but just be an observer. So the question is there an auspicious time to cross a bridge? Because we are talking about crossing the bridge. And the answer is yes and no. I live in New Jersey. Every time I go to New York, I cross the George Washington Bridge, and I always look at the traffic and find the most optimum time to cross that bridge. But that's not the case with spirituality. There is no auspicious time to when to start spirituality. You can start any time you want. The earlier you start is better. However, certain bridges are tied to the time element, and we'll visit such a bridge. So this bridge is the Charles Bridge on the Vlatva River in Prague. And the number 135797531. It's very much important for this bridge. Why? Holy Roman Emperor Charles IV built this bridge. On the left-hand side is the actual bridge. I crossed that bridge several years ago. On the right-hand side is the painting I bought from a street vendor. And it's a beautiful sight. And the reason this bridge is so famous, that Emperor Charles knew that the year 1357 will never ever come in the history of humanity. So the way the numbers lined up, 1357, he thought he needs to do something about it. So he started the construction of the bridge on the 9th day of the 7th month at 5:31 a.m. And so when you go to the bridge and go to the old tower, 135797531 has been carved on that bridge. It's a very important bridge. So it is important to cross the bridge at the right time. Certain bridges are like that. However, if you decide to cross the bridge to spirituality and trying to get the initiation done, certainly on an auspicious day, initiation ceremony will be performed. And as per your mind's makeup, the Guru will provide you a Ishta Devata, and Guru will also provide you a mantra specifically tailored for you. And you should practice that sincerely. So as you decide to cross the bridge to spirituality, you prepare and you gather some tools. And what are these tools? Daily prayer, control of senses, as the saint said, that if you control your senses, desires will be reduced. Japa, reading holy books, and there are all kinds of books are available. Meditation and holy company. And as you gather all these tools, it will develop detachment of worldly things for you. And why are we doing that? To make ourselves fit to cross the bridge to spirituality. So as you travel on life's highway, you may come across this strange looking interstate sign. Maybe the road going to north towards knowledge. And you might find a sign saying last exit before the bridge. And you will find that the bridge to spirituality has multiple lanes, such as Karma Yoga, path of action, Bhakti Yoga, path of devotion, Raj Yoga, path of discipline, and Jnana Yoga, path of knowledge. All of these paths will take you from ignorance to knowledge. You as an experienced driver may decide to drive in your own lane, or you may choose to drive in multiple lanes. Still you will go from ignorance to knowledge. There is a fifth lane reserved for the avataras and the Ishwar Kotis. You may cross over to that bridge, but you can at least watch them and follow their lives and get to knowledge. So life's bridges do point to the four yogas. The first picture on the left-hand side is the book called Gita Rahasya, written by Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak. If you recall, I used to cross the Tilak bridge. And every time now I look back at that bridge, it reminds me of Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who was imprisoned by the Britishers. So what did he do in the prison? He wrote the best book of Karma Yoga. And so he reminds me of the wavy water in the emblem of the Ramakrishna order. This emblem has been designed by Swami Vivekananda. And then the Ramachandra Setu, the bridge which Rama and the Hanuman and the monkeys built. The devotion of Hanuman reminds me of the Bhakti Yoga, the flower or the lotus in the emblem. And the determination of Swami Sarvagatananda reminds me of the bridge he crossed to get to Kankal of the Raja Yoga. And certainly Swami Vivekananda and Sister Nivedita, they remind me of the knowledge and the rising sun in the emblem of Ramakrishna order. So with that, some few benefits of spirituality we'll talk about. There are many benefits. With spirituality, you will understand who your true nature. And one of the things in Sloka 336 or Abhanga 336, the saint uses the word swapna or dream. And he says that once you walk on this path, you will realize that just like as you are holding on to, you don't hold on to things in the dream, things in the life are similar. You don't hold on to them. And it's same for rich and poor. It's not different for rich person and different for poor person. Also he says, remember all the suffering you have. Every night when you sleep, you forget about your body and all the suffering is gone. So some of these teachings are very important. And then he says that as you get closer to enlightenment, you can lit fire to all the karmas. And how can you lit fire to all the karmas? By taking name of God. And you will avoid making rounds to birth and death cycle. So how would I do that? He says, follow the lives of those who have gone ahead. Follow the lives of Swamis of Ramakrishna order. Maybe follow lives of Jesus Christ and all the spiritual teachers such as Buddha and others. And in the end he says, let us cut the waking state and go to our true home. That is, go from the waking state to Brahman to our true home and rest forever. What does he mean by that? So let's look at, in a brief slide here, that think of Brahman as oneness of existence. And you here are assuming an identity I in the waking state, and you are dreaming of building a bigger house, you own a car, and you are living in the waking state with consciousness and body and mind awareness. But sometimes you sleep and you have a dream. At that time you have no body consciousness and you only have mind conscious, and you're still dreaming and you are making everything out of your mind. Sometimes you go to deep sleep and only your consciousness, no body awareness, no mind awareness. And so the ancient sages looked at these three stages. Stage 1, waking. Stage 2, dream. Stage 3, deep sleep. And they said, none of these three stages are your real you. What you are is the fourth. And so they called that as Turiya. Turiya means fourth. Now Turiya is not the fourth stage, but everything, stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 is appearing in Turiya. So there is only really one stage, which is Turiya. But because the meaning of Turiya is fourth, people think it's the fourth stage. Remember, every time you go to deep sleep, you have no body and mind awareness. Yet when you wake up, how do you remember that you had a great sleep? There has to be something in the background which is remembering that. And that background is you. And that's what you need to focus on and remember. And this is what the saint meant by waking up from the waking state to the background of the universe. Remember, as a child, you see your photograph different. As you grow older, in all those changes, your body has changed, your mind has changed, yet you identify yourself in all those pictures as you. That's only possible because of a existing underlying background to all of these states. So with that, I will conclude. Body made up of 5 elements is born, so it must end. However, our desires and karmas continue to next life. We cannot take family, wealth, or any worldly possession with us to our next life. We cannot even take worldly knowledge with us, as we saw. That worldly knowledge will be wiped off when you take the new birth. Only spiritual knowledge will be carried to the next life. So we must invest in that everlasting knowledge. Our time on earth is finite. Remember our precious human life. So make good use of every moment to acquire this everlasting spiritual knowledge. As one starts to practice spirituality, life becomes simpler and peaceful. Remember, life is a journey, and the goal of human life is to realize our true eternal nature. So cross the most critical bridge of your life, the bridge to spirituality, to reach enlightenment. And with that, acknowledgements, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, certainly all the answers I keep pointing there. You will be a Paramahamsa, a great book by Swami Sarvagatananda. Translations of Santa Tukaram Maharaj Gatha, my personal notes and translations. The Dhammapada sayings of Buddha, written by Carton and Pali Vadana. The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And several ideas for this presentation have come from learnings from numerous lectures and retreats by Swamis of Ramakrishna order. To Swami Yogatmananda, my heartfelt thanks one more time for allowing me to come back here yet again and giving me an opportunity to express my ideas about spirituality. To Swami Sarvapriyananda and Swami Ishatmananda for answering several of my questions and my discussions with them. And to Vivekananda Vidyapit in Wayne, New Jersey, to Dr. Mahendra Jani and his Monday scriptural class and his notes. And with that, thank you all. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
That was an excellent talk. Thank you so much.
Thank
Very
you.
nice, yeah. So I'm very intrigued by the Swami who was at this center before. I've seen photographs of him, and just to imagine that he walked on this road in the past. Could you speak to the second reference you made there and tell us what's in that book and how one might acquire it?
I can go back to that slide. Give me a second. Right here, sorry. This one, right? Yeah, that is the book he wrote. And currently in our Monday class in Wayne with Wayne, we just completed reading that book. And it's a beautiful book about how he went to see Swami Kalyanandaji and how he spent his time there. And as Swami Sarvagatananda says that as a young person, he never thought that he would be becoming a Swami and all. It's a very candid account of what he, as a young student starting from Bombay and then going all the way to North and then staying with Kalyananandaji and then following Ramakrishna order and all that. Yes. I don't know whether how old the book is, but the book just came out and then our Monday scriptural class, we devoted about 7 or 8 Mondays to try to finish it. It's not a very thick book. I have not seen that. Yes. This is a thin book. But I think Charlie is saying that there is a thicker book also available. I have not seen that. Charlie, she has a question.
Stay there.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your talk. It was very, very nice. What happens to the worldly knowledge? Because we've heard of prodigies. Does that go to another soul?
Say it again.
What happens to prodigies, the worldly knowledge? Does that get attached to another soul?
So I think what I know is that in terms of the karmas get attached to a different body and they are carried on. Because I think I had asked this question to either Swami Sarvapriyananda or Yogatmanandaji also, that if once the body is dead, how does it now come back with a new person or new life, and how is it that the karmas remain? So our sanskaras and the marks remain on the subtle body and causal body, and they are carried forward to the next life. Otherwise, at the end of the first life, everything will be complete, and you don't have to worry about it. But that does not happen. So karmas do get carried over further, and that's how the circle of life continues. Thank you. I can leave it there.
Okay, so we have next Sunday will be a talk by Swami Yogatmanandaji, Much Ado About Nothing. We have the Tuesday and Friday classes, Tuesday on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and Friday on stories from Srimad Bhagavatam. And we have meditation mornings and evenings. Morning from 5:30 to 7:30, and evening from 7 to 8:30, except Sundays. And we will close with the closing prayer, and then we'll have arati in the shrine, and you're welcome to come for the soup supper in the dining room. So the closing prayer, you can join in if you like. May the divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. And thank you, Sudhir, for that wonderful talk. And Swami Yogatmananda will be back on Tuesday. You can go in, take your shoes off, you can go in to the...
Breaker of all our worldly bondage and adored by all, we adore you too. Stainless Lord, assuming human form. Stainless Lord, assuming human form, transcendent yet filled with love. You free us from the stain of sin and ornament our world. Consciousness is your form. Your eyes always purified by knowledge. Your eyes always purified by knowledge. Looking at them, delusion is gone. Ocean of shining love and feeling, ever inebriated in your infinite love. Your feet always dear to your devotees. Your feet always dear to your devotees. Form are brought to cross this world. Revealed to us as God incarnate and the Lord of all things, helping us join with you. Your mind's always set in the divine light. Your mind's always set in the divine light. This we can see through your grace. Destroyer of worldly sorrow and compassion, soul, infinite is your word. Your lives offered for the world's deliverance. Your lives offered for the world's deliverance, saving us from darkness and fear. Renouncer of all lust and lucre, therefore you were always spurning sensual life. Lord of monks, you are the best of men. Lord of monks, you are the best of men. Grant to us pure love for you. You're fearless and you're free from doubting, with your mind very firmly resolved. Causeless refuge of your devotees, causeless refuge of your devotees, renouncing caste and birth. Our treasure is your holy feet, which take us very soon across this puddle of life. You give love and even-sightedness. You give love and even-sightedness to remove our anguish here. Our treasure is your holy feet, which take us very soon across this puddle of life. You give love and even-sightedness. You give love and even-sightedness to remove our anguish here. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yet you are the basis of both. O Lord, yet you are the basis of both. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heart's cave. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heart's cave. Darkness is destroyed by your light. O Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yet you are the basis of both. O Lord, yet you are the basis of both. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heart's cave. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heart's cave. Darkness is destroyed by your light. O Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. Langa ranga bhanga, these are all the sounds of mridanga. Langa ranga bhanga, these are all the sounds of mridanga. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Jaya Jaya for your worship divine. Hara Hara for your worship divine. Shiva Shiva for your worship divine. Breaker of all our worldly महाराज जी की जय। Auspicious and blessed graciousness sublime, all noble ends you give to us, granting us refuge, all seeing glory. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Creation, preservation, dissolution are your powers, eternal one. Nature's essence, O Mother Divine, our love to you. We come seeking refuge from anguish. Be our Savior through your deep concern. All our suffering remove, Goddess. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Victory, O Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Jai Shri Ram Krishna Dev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Sarda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Swami Vivekanand Ki Jai. Jai Shri Buddhadev Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jesus Christ Ki